If you want to save money on your trading card purchases, we have a promo link over at 50cards.shop. Enter the promo code ATNIGHT to get 5% off your order. Hey everybody, welcome to Nexus at Night, your weekly Vanguard podcast. I'm Sunburned.
I'm Matt.
My pipes are leaking.
See, that sounds like a euphemism, but it's not a euphemism. Yeah.
No, there's just like a giant pool, or there was a giant pool of water in my junk room. We've cleaned that up and knocked down one of the walls. So they're gonna fix that tomorrow, hopefully.
Okay.
And then I gotta wait several more days for the walls to be put back up.
Okay. See, now we have had two home-related disasters. We have fire and now water. I assume I'm going to have the earth or air-related one at some point.
You're just earth and wind.
Sure, yeah.
Tightening grid.
We're due for an earthquake.
Yeah. Jeez. Anyway,
no fire yet?
No fire yet. I'm surprised. Yeah, it's. I live in SoCal, you guys. This should be on fire all the time, but it's not.
Canada's ahead of you. You got to catch up.
Yeah,
it's NorCal that's usually on fire, isn't it?
It varies. Like, it's usually it rains for you guys, and then we get like the last scrap of it, so we dry out faster than you do. I think.
Yeah.
There's also just less trees to go around down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually up north where there's all the like trees are, so
yeah, there are too many trees north. That's right.
Yeah.
Remember that time the forest fires got so bad the smoke blanketed out the sun?
Like imagine there's a fire in San Bernardino County, right? Where's it going?
I don't know.
It's got nowhere to go.
I just remember that time, like both sides of the 405 caught on fire, and then
yeah, that was wild.
They closed it down behind me, like I was going up, and they were like, all right, everybody past a certain point can't come on anymore. So I just drove through the Sepulveda past through what looked like a flaming vagina. Just both sides.
I wish you would have described that any other way.
All right. Yeah.
You could have described that in a much cooler way, but you decided to describe it in the most cringe way possible. I understand.
I know. I must myself.
It happens.
Yep. What are we gonna do? Anyway, so today is a creative card episode, which we haven't done forever. It's been a long time.
That's true. It has been a while.
Yeah, and we asked you all to submit your creative cards for us to review, and then I remember why we haven't done an episode like this in a long time. Not a lot of people do it, but we got some interesting ones to look at, mostly through our dear friend Lyrics_Mad. Mr. Pugh, whatever you want to call him, on Twitter. He posts these like constantly and tags us in it, which, by the way, you, the listener, are welcome to do that anytime. Submit creative cards in the comments, tweet it at us. I don't care. But the challenge for today was to do a ride line, an encounter ride line that wasn't Cater Sanctuary.
Correct.
So
what's Cater anyway?
I don't know, something about a belly button. I'm not sure. All right. So somebody put together a Brandt Starhulk encounter ride line, which is wacky. Also, this guy photoshopped it. Most people will just send us the text, but this guy went above and beyond. So at Ace75 on Twitter. So Starhulk Glory, it's the normal starter for Overdress, right? If you went second, wrote upon draw a card. The grade 1 is on Vanguard. When placed, discard a card from your hand. This unit may attack even on the first turn, and when units are revealed during your drive checks, put them on the bottom of the deck instead of putting them into hand. And then the other effect is when on Vanguard, when it attacks, Soul Blast a Lurie, your starter. Stand this unit, and until the end of the turn, when this unit would deal damage to your a Vanguard, your opponent discards 2 cards from the top of their deck instead. So, what?
When it attacks, So one placed.
I need to go remind myself what the original Brandt did.
Some of it, a lot of it is kind of different, but like it still goes back to that spirit of make sure it's all the triggers go backwards, right?
Yeah.
Just to attack on the first turn, and you don't have to do the second effect, but you can.
You don't even have to do the first effect. They're both based off a cost.
Yeah.
I
Why
don't
would you not do
remember
the
type
first?
of
Oh, because
Star
you
Hulk.
discard a card for giving
Yeah.
your opponent damage.
You wouldn't do the first effect if you go second because you can attack anyway.
Right. That's true.
And then the second effect, you get a restand, but it doesn't do damage. It just makes them mill.
Mm-hmm.
The second effect is something I would be like, why would I ever do this unless there was a very specific plan in mind?
Yeah.
But the first effect seems, I think, pretty reasonable, actually.
Yeah, the first one is fine. It's very similar to that one Riser card.
High-powered Riser Custom or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually think this card's fairly reasonable. The second effect, I think, is a bit weak, at least in a vacuum. I would never be using the second effect, I think.
Because what's the point?
Right, exactly. Because it doesn't really fulfill some goal, and helping my opponent instead would be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be kind of hesitant to use the second effect, but I think the first effect is quite reasonable.
Yeah.
It seems powerful at first glance, and then you think about it, and you're like, is it though? Because you're giving your opponent a resource right out of the gate.
Yeah.
The resource being
the counter
cards and drops. Yeah, I mean because the second part is when it attacks.
No, I'm saying the first part.
Oh, the first part, yes, it does give the opponent.
And you're discarding a card and giving your opponent a counterblast to be up a damage,
you're not getting to keep a card because it goes to the bottom of the deck.
Correct. Yeah. If the card went to hand, I think this effect would be really, really, really probably overly strong. But I think the fact that it goes to the bottom of the deck makes it quite a reasonable ability. I think that's a fair restriction on it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah. So what I guess what you could do is not have the discard cost or have the drive check.
Well,
in hand.
I mean, again, the discard thing could make sense in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, we don't know what their idea for the deck around it is.
Yeah.
But if me milling my opponent is has some goal, fulfill some purpose, then it's much more valuable.
Right. Okay.
Okay, let's see. The original Riser custom is you put a card from hand to the turn, it can attack on the first turn and gets drive -1.
See, that's actually just worse.
Because you minus and give them a counter.
Well, it's worse and better, right? Mm-hmm. So it's better in the sense that you get a soul out of it, which here you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But you do. This also gives you the opportunity to hit something on the drive check.
Mm-hmm.
For better or worse.
First
turn heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you put the heal back in deck.
Or something. Yeah. You still feel like you know the feeling.
Yeah, I know what you mean. All right, let's look at the grade.
Atlas. I put something on.
All right, great.
Facebook chat.
Oh, hang on. Let's see. Before we start on the grade 2 here, what did you send me? It's just okay. So
we can put that in later.
I'll put it in later. Okay. You know what? Let's just do that at the end. Anyway, the grade 2. Either of you guys want to read it?
Sure. So Vanguard Rear on place. Your opponent reveals top card of the deck. If it's a trigger, you draw a card. If it's a normal unit, they discard it and it gets drive +1. When it intercepts, if you have a Vanguard or Star Hulk, your opponent reveals top card of your deck. If it's a trigger, +15k. So on the battle, and then if they reveal a normal unit, you may bind it.
Hang on, let me reread that second one. The first part looks good. First effect is pretty strong. Okay.
Okay, so so it's like a riff on what this card did in V. The V version is like when your drive check reveals a Star Hulk, it gets 10k, and then on intercept, if you have a Vanguard with Star Hulk, you can look at the top card of your opponent's deck, and then you can just bind it.
Okay.
or you may bind it. So this is a riff on that, except kind of gives you like different options. So
Mhm.
like if you reveal a trigger, it gets extra shield, and then if it's a normal unit, you may bind it. So it's still like similar qualities to the original. And then the first one is kind of going off of that like same idea of kind of milling your opponent.
And like hoping to dig in, so you run into those triggers that you then mess them up with.
Mm-hmm.
Although, granted, in the case of like the first two, the like anti-trigger thing isn't online until turn 3.
Yeah.
So just giving them triggers isn't necessarily good that early.
Yeah.
Getting the plus off of just being like on turn 2, you either get a draw or an extra drive check.
Mm-hmm.
Is good though.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Now the actual. I like how they took the anime still for Brandt.
Weiss moment.
What?
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
card is a grade 3. And it says when placed from riding from the grade 2, counter +1, soul +1, look at the top card of your opponent's deck. You may put it on top of their deck. If you do not, discard that card. And then counter +1 until end of opponent's next turn. For the trigger effects, other than power increase, change the effect to critical. The attacking unit gets critical -1, and heal, steal 1 damage to your bank.
So that is just Brandt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is like fine, I guess.
The first effect seems quite poor, right?
Yeah, I feel like it should just work like either on play or like riding from the grade 2 or persona. Like that feels like something that should be like on the grade 2, and then it's like if you persona ride, you could do that thing too.
I feel like if you want it specifically from the grade 2, it should just be free.
Yeah, if it's from the grade 2, it should be. Well, someone's just
right?
like, yeah. That's the thing. Like, I feel like that effect should be on like the grade 2, where like when the grade 3 rides on top of it, you can like pay the cost and do the thing.
I see what you're saying. They've done a lot of that in D as well.
Yeah,
like when this is rode upon, yada 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 yada.
Yeah, so it's weird that it's like when this rides specifically on top of the grade 2 is like, okay, so what about next turn when you just like persona ride?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just doing nothing. It's very strange to have that on the grade 3. So it should have either been like when this unit is placed, if you persona rode, you can like do the thing.
I think what annoys me the most, like Brandt has always been kind of a weirdly popular archetype, right? Like whatever you want to call it.
Has it?
It's been like this thing that people talk about every time it comes up, just because
it's like a cult following. That's
reverse share if you play.
Sure.
Yeah. And then also Ace 7-5 included the grade 4.
Oh my.
Brandt Ringer and some support, which we'll look at in a second. So I don't think you're even meant to persona ride. You just do the one and then try and dig for this.
Let's see. When it's placed by running from a card with Brandt in its name, look at 2 cards on the top of your opponent's deck on top of the deck in any order.
Nullify the over trigger.
Hang on. One at a time here.
Sorry.
On play, check top 2, put any on top, discard the rest. Fine. Act on Van once per turn, counterblast 1 until the end of your opponent's turn for their non-trigger effects, non-power trigger effects. Change the effects to crit becomes a crit -1, draw becomes a discarded card, heal becomes deal 1 damage. Change the gain of front triggers to the back row and nullify their over trigger.
Yeah.
Nullifying over trigger, I'm in.
Yeah. Best support.
I could easily see people like who got burned by the OT one too many times like, fuck this, I'm playing this.
I will never lose to the over trigger again. I will lose to other gameplay elements.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Just have your opponent play the Dragon Tree. You'll never lose to the OT then. And if you do, damn, you actually let them live for 3 turns?
Mm-hmm. I mean, with this support, because my problem is that it's like, okay, all right, opponent, you better not get any triggers. Do you do other stuff? Nah.
I mean,
like,
this is being designed in a way to like fight against that, right? By being able to stack your opponent's deck.
God forbid they ever shuffle or something, though, right?
Well,
Yeah.
how are they shuffling like on your turn?
On their turn.
Take damage. Well, I guess if they never take damage.
Oh, that's true.
If they guard everything, start their turn, and then be like, okay, search something, shuffle.
Well, no, because in that case they would just draw the trigger.
Correct.
Yeah. But it could also be you mill the top two because they're normal units, and then there's more normal units under that. That's also a possibility. I think they should have dug deeper. To be honest, it should have been like top 5 or something.
No, top 2's fine.
2's good.
Top 2 is
fine.
Top 2 is a very Bushiroad number. I think that's a smart number for
a very Bushiroad number.
I played a lot of White Schwartz, and let me tell you,
yeah,
they love checking top 2.
Like,
of opponent's deck anyway. Of your deck, they'll look at like top 4, but of opponent's deck, top 2.
Yeah, like golds have like 3 or it's anywhere between like top 2 and top 5.
Like
sometimes 7 in Vanguard.
Yeah, sometimes it's 7 for Van. I don't know. I feel like lately in Vanguard it's like between 5 and 7, unless you're specifically stacking the deck. Then it's like 2.
Yeah, Wise will also just search for stuff sometimes.
But
usually they'll have some fake restrictions. Sorry, go ahead.
As someone who's playing Hexorb right now, stacking the deck is usually top 2, and then everything else is like 3, 5, and 7.
I know the like V Suleiman is top 7 looking for an alt mile, but I don't really see 7 all that much.
Yeah, 7's on a lot of the old or like not the first ride lines, but the second wave. Like the Enigman.
Right.
Yeah. Before that,
they
was
they love checking top 7. Yeah, it was 5, but you could do it like it stacked to the bottom. The 7 shuffled.
Right. Okay, so here's what I love. They like do all the the good Photoshop, and then for the support cards, they're like, I couldn't think of anything. Fuck it, black.
Yeah, I mean there aren't a lot of Star Hulk cards to begin with.
Yeah.
But if they really wanted to, they only had like one other grade 1 that they could take for the art.
All right, so Star Hulk Mayak is a grade 2. On rear, at the start of your opponent's battle phase, if you have a Vanguard with Brandt in its card name, counterblast 1, retire this unit. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and it gets continuous. This unit cannot be chosen by trigger effects until the end of turn.
That's fine. Like Brandt is already reversing all of the trigger effects. This nullifies the power gain.
Sure.
I think this card is. Why does it counterblast?
Why not?
All right.
That's a very Bushiroad thing to do.
You're right. I would just, I don't know. I think this card could be free, and I'm like, this card's fine.
I like how we're saying this is a very Bushiroad thing to do when it's us people, not Bushiroad people.
Yeah. But I think like part of the skill of designing creative cards is making sure that you get close to what Bushiroad would do as possible. I think this really does it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's their intention, but because it seems like you're like, if you chose to retire this unit, right? You're like, there should be a cost on here, right?
Yeah.
But does there really need to be? Like, you think about, would I play this card with the cost? How good is this card without the cost, right? You're like, is this card too good without the cost? And you're like, probably not. And you just run it.
Yeah. And then,
but Bushiroad put a cost on there, 100%.
That's true. All right, so somebody grab this grade 3.
Okay, if your Vanguard has. Oh,
sorry, go ahead. No, go right ahead.
All right, if your Vanguard has Brandt in its name, all of your Vanguard get 5k, and your opponent's Vanguard gets drive +1. Trigger units revealed for the 3rd drive check or more of each turn are put into the drop zone instead of hand. Trigger effects activate.
This is awkward for the grade 4.
Wait, let me go back and make sure it doesn't randomly.
It does not have triple drive.
That's bizarre. Anyways, going back to the never mind. This card is not awkward. The grade 4 at all. I just assumed the grade 4 triple drive since they all do.
Me too. Yeah. No, I had to go back and look again. Yeah.
Yeah. This card's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That second effect's kind of like interesting because then even just against any of the like original ride lines, then their last drive check is not going into hand. And
yeah, this is pretty awkward if you don't have the counterblast to actually activate Brandt, but
Mm-hmm.
that would be a different issue.
Yeah.
I would
And
say
of
don't
course
put
your
yourself.
opponent-
I would say don't put yourself in that position.
Yeah. And of course your opponent can just get rid of it.
Yep.
they should have just given itself 5K. Like
It'd be pretty funny if this died like during drive checks, and so it just lost like triple drive like during the second drive check, and so it didn't actually need to complete it. It would have to be some effect very similar to like Dauntless Reverse,
yeah,
Mhm.
where it's like every time you check a grade 1 or higher, it pops like a grade 1 or lower.
yeah.
But like it needs to kill like big things. That'd be pretty funny. It's like, oh well, I know
It
like
would.
drive, so I'm done checking actually.
So what do we think of this little package that A75 sent us overall?
I think it's really cool. The only card that is a little bit weird to me comes off as the grade 1. Just because I don't really know what the mill 2 is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like basically the only like real problem I have with that. I think it's pretty cool.
Right on. So Richard Pugh, lyrics _mad, shout out to him. He sent us so much Musketeer support to the point where he just DM'd it to us because the character count was becoming a problem.
Oh God.
Yeah. Decided on my Musketeers as the deck for you guys to consider for this week's episode. I'll start off with the ride line itself and then work into the dedicated support. So
Powerful.
he's got the starter, Lily of the Valley Musketeer Rebecca, grade 1, 8K. When this unit is rode upon by Kaivant, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 grade 2 or less among them, call it to rear and shuffle. If you called 1 or more Bioroid or cards with Musketeer in their card names, draw 1.
That's quite powerful.
Oh, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's amazing. Holy crap. That's like a double gold paladin. And
that is incredibly strong, Jesus.
Probably too strong.
You know what? I'll let Musketeer have this one. Or,
right.
yeah, go for
So now,
Kaivant.
so Kaivant is the grade 2.
Yeah.
When this is rode upon by a grade 3 with Musket as card name, you can retire a rear guard, look at top 4, choose up to 2 cards from among them, call them to R. And if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, the call units get boost until end of turn.
Wow. Okay. I guess the one downside is you have to have something on rear to get the plus from being
Not
run
enough things retire early for that to be a problem.
And you're calling 2 things off the grade 1, so like they'd have to pop 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or like swing at 1 and retire or something in the back. I don't know how you pull that off really, but
yeah.
That's still pretty wacko in the fun way. Here, Ripper, you do a Cecilia.
Okay, so White Lily Musketeer Cecilia. When your Bioroid or card with Musketeer on its name is placed on rearguard circle, it gets 5k until end of turn. If your Persona Road or the place rearguard has Cecilia in its card name, its original crit becomes 2. Counterblast 1, 3 normal units from drop zone bomb your deck, retire a rearguard, look at top 5 cards, choose up 2 cards from among them, call them, and those units get power plus 10,000.
Holy crap, dude.
Like a lot going on.
Yeah.
All right. So I actually think this is a pretty reasonable ride line, except that the grade 1 does not need to have draw a card at the end of it.
Yeah.
You're already ahead
Mm-hmm.
on the grade 1. So I don't know. Like, I think the good draw a card is a little superfluous.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite powerful to have the draw a card part. But I think the rest of it, I think Cecilia is quite strong.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to know if this card is too powerful because it is restricted to
Bioroid or whatever.
Well, no, actually, the second ability is not restricted to anything at all.
Yeah. Just the
No, you're
power
right.
gain on itself. That's like,
Yeah, if this is all restricted to Musketeer, I think it's quite reasonable, though.
yeah, like Musketeer and Bioroid. That's like fine for the power gain.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the other one's just like call any two things, but it's an axe, so it's not like you're getting extra attacks out of it.
Mhm.
Like they're just
Oh
big.
yeah.
I think this being generic would be incredibly strong,
Mm-hmm.
but I would suspect that if they were going to do something with Musketeers, that it would be locked to Musketeers. But I could be incorrect.
Are there? I'm trying to think of like Stoichia ways to get a fourth attack that aren't name locked.
Don't think there are any. Otherwise, Zorga wouldn't be
Yeah, exactly.
worried about that until they got Keel.
Mhm.
That's true.
Yeah. So as for now, I think that's the balancing act, right? Is it being
Yeah,
like Zorga?
Cecilia's big, gets a crit. Like you get big columns, but you don't get any extra attacks. That's fine.
Which is very Musketeer.
Yeah.
Well, other than V, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
But I think this is a pretty reasonable. And obviously, we haven't seen the support cards, but like
We're about to.
Mostly a reasonable ride line. I just think the grade 1 doesn't really need to draw a card because it already calls 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think especially like going second, like you get the draw, and then on the next turn, you get 2 more cards from deck
And draw.
Yeah.
And you're like just so far ahead.
I mean, that could be. Wasn't that a similar thing with Roroa, where it would be like really crazy right out of the gate, and then like nosedive hard later?
So Roro is very strong on the ride up. I think turn 3 is where it's weakest because you like don't draw any cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then like with the new one, once you start Persona riding, you like get back. So it's weird. It's this weird deck where like you ramp up pretty early and then you plateau for a bit because you have a very strong offense still, but you don't draw any cards, and then you start going back up again once you Persona ride, but that like one turn where you're not gaining any advantage could probably be like game ending.
I see.
Yeah, that's a pretty relevant turn to lose advantage too.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's when most decks are hitting their powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Like, all right, I can finally start doing the thing.
Yeah, so like right now, like Rora has been a decent like rogue deck just because it is so explosive early, and then I think it hasn't been doing much out of set 11 just because you have other decks that like maintain a pretty good pace throughout the game and then get really crazy when they ride the new grade 3s. And Rora has that like slight dip on turn 3 where it's not doing much, where it's not like gaining advantage and everything else is going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, and now the support cards. I like how I had a little intro there. All right, Anemone Musketeer Susanna. This is a grade 1. Once again, the Stoichia new Nectar Bioroid thing. Auto on rear when it boosts. If your grade 3 or greater Vanguard has Musketeer in its card name, and 2 or more rear guards were called by card effects this turn, you may have this unit give plus 5k until end of battle. If you do, at the end of that battle, Soul Blast and retire this unit, countercharge 2.
Countercharge 2 seems like a lot. I feel like it's usually the other way around, right? Where you're like Soul Blast 2, countercharge 1.
It should probably be countercharge 1, I think.
Yeah.
Also, that should probably just be a separate ability. It's really awkward. No, like so the way it's situated, the way the second ability needs to read is it needs to be when this attacks, if 2 or more units were placed this turn, Soul Blast 1 no. Oh yeah, Soul Blast 1. This gets power plus 5,000. And at the end of turn, retire it and countercharge 1 or countercharge whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a bit awkwardly worded like this because it seems like it's a must that you need to retire it, but because it's a cost that makes it a may, so you can just have it gain 5k and then just never do the later effect.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that kind of makes sense. Like if you want to just
like the
boost.
Yeah, it's fine if it works that way. It just is a little awkwardly worded because with the if you do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I think it's a fine card idea. I think the countercharge 2 is probably a bit much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think you need to put like if you do, right? Just put like at the end of that battle, you can
Yeah, you can just make that a separate ability, really.
Yeah, because
there was that weird thing about like full stops where it like basically does not have to meet any of the other requirements.
Right, but I don't like if you so you have to make it gain 5K. So you so in this case, you would need to place 2 cards so you can choose to get 5K to have the option to retire to countercharge.
Yeah,
but
that is
Musketeers is pretty much always going to fulfill that condition. I don't know. It's just
I guess that's the thing. Like, if it's a full stop, then you don't have to care about having a Musketeer Vanguard or calling 2 things because that's how Bushiroad ruled it.
Yeah, that's fair.
If you do,
yeah, it's also it is interesting that this is only when it boosts. So if it's the attacker, it does not get to do any of this.
Yeah.
An enemy Musketeer, Susanna, new countercharge engine for every green nation.
Yeah, but your Vanguard
no, because they have, as it's currently worded now, it's locked to Musketeers, but like,
I know, but it's funny.
Countercharge 2 feels incredibly powerful.
It feels like a lot.
For D, yeah, it definitely does.
All right, so next one is Dandelion Musketeer Merca. It's another grade 1 8K. When it's placed on rear by your card's ability, put a card from your hand into soul, draw a card.
That's reasonable.
Okay.
And then auto on rear when the unit boosts. If 2 or more rear guards are placed this turn or placed by card effects this turn, the boosted unit gets power plus 10,000 till end of battle. If you called a card with the same name as your Vanguard this turn, the boosted unit gets critical plus 1 until the end of battle.
I like it. That's pretty cool.
That is quite powerful.
I think that's cool. I feel like maybe there should have been a cost if it's going to be 10K and a crit, but like,
probably. Make it a counterblast if you're going to put countercharge engines in it.
Yeah. Like if you're going to make a countercharge too, this might as well cost a counterblast, right?
Yeah. I think this is like for a deck that's not going to attack 4 times. I think you need stuff like this.
You could always have the 10K be free, and then have the crit be locked behind the counterblast.
Nah, just because you're already deciding what you're going to do with it. So just make it a cost counterblast up front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like by calling Cecilia to rear, you're already planning to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like this is just part of the turn planning that you can just always make this counter plus 1, and that's fine.
Right, like you're giving up your persona ride for that. Like that better.
You can shuffle. Well, you can shuffle them back with the Cecilia.
Yes, but you don't have
the next card.
You don't have immediate access to them. Oh my god! Fine, just do it. Go.
Tulip Musketeer Mina. So at the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If you have a grade 3 or greater Musketeer, counterblast 1, retire it. Choose a grade 3 rearguard, put it in your hand.
Okay, fine. Way to bury the lead, I guess.
Well, it turns out you're not giving up shit.
Yeah, so that I guess that answers that question. That's even crazier where you can go, all right, check top 4, check top 3, call 2 things. I'll call the Cecilia, and then I have the Mina on board to then bounce it to then get my persona ride next turn.
Yeah. This card's reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like if the deck is going to require you to be call copies of your Vanguard, that something like this probably needs to exist.
Definitely.
You could probably make this go to soul and it's fine also.
Yeah, but then...
Well, no, retiring it might be strictly better in this case.
Because you'd want to put the stuff back in deck, yeah?
Correct.
Yeah.
Usually soul, I think, is better, but I think with the grade 3, you want to make sure you have enough normal units going to drop, which you can run out of if you're not retiring them enough.
Yeah. All right. Ruth, I guess it's my turn.
Yep.
Water Lily Musketeer Ruth. So another grade 1. We see a lot of grade 1s, I've noticed.
We're getting there. Calm down. Chill out.
Shut up. Continuous in the back row center, rear guard circle. If you have your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Musketeer in its name, when your card effect would return cards from your drop zone to your deck, your trigger units other than over triggers are regarded as normal units.
I don't like this card already.
And then continuous on rear. If 2 or more rear guards are replaced by card effects, this unit gets plus 10K. So.
This is a
little
lot.
Too wacky, or
generally I would have. I am scared of cards like this
Especially if Musketeers, like if this theoretical Musketeer got to a point where it was acting like Legionnaire Musketeers, right?
Yeah.
And then you imagine that for every cost, you're just shuffling 2 triggers back in your deck, and so your deck is just all triggers all the time.
Yeah.
Which is quite obnoxious.
Like, the reason Sheltered Era Spangled was banned from Premium was because you could loop triggers back into the deck with Chichikapom, or whatever the name is, the Stride. And they banned it just for the loop. And with this, you can do essentially the same thing.
It is slower because, like, obviously, like, but this feels quite insane.
Yeah. Well, because also, this doesn't have to do anything. You put it behind Vanguard, and unless your opponent can blow it up, you're set for the whole game.
Correct.
And because Cecilia can give herself an extra crit, the plus 10k given to Ruth, like, that's something.
And you're playing Musketeers, so you're always going to find it.
Exactly.
Feels way too strong to me. But this is kind of the first card I've seen in this, so I'm like, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah. I'm still kind of stemmed.
I understand the idea, though.
Yeah, like, if we're still on the it's 3 attacks per turn, calm your tits type of deal, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But still,
I mean,
we're
even
on the edge here.
Like, at some point,
I think Richard's idea was that at some point you would have to put like regular normal units back in your deck, you know, to like hit reasonable things, which is fair. You might want to do that at some point, but now this lets you just like
in your deck
basically whiff. You know, where you're just like, oh, I'm gonna search top 4. I'm gonna shuffle 3 triggers back. I'm gonna search top 4, 5, or whatever. I'm like, oh, I hit nothing. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, man. And your deck's just all triggers, and it's like that can happen. So, but you have to retire one. Yeah, but you're like guaranteeing trigger checks every turn.
Well, especially like, okay, in the earlier game, it's putting it on the bottom, and then you search. So like, if you find this early, and it then turns into, I put all triggers back in the early game, and then like, if you find some way to shuffle, then you're set for the later game. And then later game, you might want to be, or mid to later game, you want to start putting the normal units back because you've used them already.
But it's about how fast they can get to that point.
Yeah,
because Musketeers classically gets there much faster than other decks.
Let's see. Why don't we? Maybe Augusto can give us some answers.
All right. So Cherry Blossom Musketeer Augusto. This is a grade 2 now, so Atlas can calm down. So if a grade 3 or greater Vanguard has Musketeer its card name, it gets power plus 5,000. This also is on opponent's turn. It's continuous.
Okay.
And then an auto, when it's placed on the rear, if your Vanguard is Musketeer its card name, you can discard a card. Look at top 4, choose up to 1 unit with a grade equal or less than your Vanguard's grade. Call to rear and shuffle your deck.
Okay.
Sure. Reasonable card.
That's fine. Yeah. Nice beat stick.
That's definitely a Weiss card. Weiss would add the card you get to hand, though, not to...
okay.
Yeah.
Got to put that on your stage or whatever it's called.
Nobody calls it that.
What do they actually call it?
They call it the field, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to. So it's really annoying. So Weiss has 5 card zones, right?
Yeah.
3 in the front, 2 in the back.
Okay.
Center stage is the front row.
Okay.
You understand the problem with this, right?
Yes.
Because there's a center slot of the center stage.
Yes.
It's so frustrating.
I can understand that.
No, if anyone uses English Weiss Schwartz term, they're a cop. I'm gonna say that straight up.
How do you do, fellow Bushiroad fans?
Let me see if I can find some English Weiss Schwartz term for you. Okay.
Okay, Root Beer, you do the next one while he's looking that up. I'm laughing too hard.
We're on Sylvia now.
Yeah, we're on Sylvia.
If you call 2 or more cards by card effect this turn, gets 5k. If you call same name as Vanguard, gets a crit. If it hits a grade 3 or greater, and if you have a grade 3 or greater Musketeer, 2 normal units from drop zone bottom of the deck, retire another rear guard, soul charge 1, and draw a card.
Okay, so 2 on bottom. You got to kill something to get the soul charge in the draw. So
Yeah.
it kind of just turns out being a wash in terms of hand size.
Yeah. Like, well, the premise is that you're just calling all of your units by card effect, then like hand size is increasing, and you're getting a soul charge, but it does have to hit.
Yes.
And if all of your units are getting crits, these become less and less likely to hit.
Yeah. Dang, I would almost say take off the crit, give it an extra 5k.
Yeah, yeah. This one does seem, being an on-hit does feel like the crit starts to become counterintuitive. But it is also the thing that you have to constantly call Cecilia's for this deck to function.
Yes. So there's the big garbage then. Is if you don't find your persona right, you're kind of screwed, which yeah. At least that's balancing, right?
Yeah, although your numbers are getting quite large.
Although
that's never helped Zorga all that much, but Zorga also has other things that are a problem for it.
I see. What, like hand size and the whole order have shield problem, or
yeah, well, yeah, because like half your deck just doesn't have shield value, so it's just like cool.
It better matter. Let's see. So Platisodon Musketeer Avelina is grade 2. When placed on rear by your card's effect, if your Vanguard has Musketeer in its card name, retire another rear guard and draw one. And then auto, when this is retired by your card's effect. Okay, so we're now starting to get into cards that want to be retired. When this unit is retired by your card's effect during your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard that has Musketeer, choose 2 of your units and they get plus 5k until end of turn. This is... God, I don't know how to explain it. It's like... It's fuel, but it doesn't really do all that much itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you can always just kind of go through, right?
Yeah. On paper, you're like, well, I got to run 4 of this, right? You got to... But I think in the end, you'd probably have it as like a 2-up.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like at some point you just retire whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're going through stuff so quickly anyway that it's like what they say where 2 people dying is a tragedy, 2,000 people dying is a statistic or whatever. Okay. Let's see. Matt, you're still looking for Weiss stuff, right?
Yeah. So the one that comes to mind is there's something that we used to call bodyguard back in the old days. And so bodyguard is a pretty rare ability on Weiss cards. It's basically that if the character with the bodyguard ability is in the front row center slot, so right smack in the middle, you have to attack that one.
Okay.
Usually you attack in a lane.
Yeah.
Like characters attack the character directly in front of them.
Yeah.
With bodyguard, you have to attack the bodyguard.
Okay.
In the translation is great performance, but nobody uses that. At least not when I played. And if you do, you're a cop.
It kind of reminds me of in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where Konami was like, "This is going to break the format," and then they release a Great Ship of Theseus,
the sea monster.
It's like if you were talking to someone about JoJo and they started using the English localizations.
Yeah, there you go.
You're not a real human being.
Yeah.
Like you are not like, who are you?
You don't like the Great Stand Zipper Man?
the thankful death.
Yeah.
Gabe, if you're listening out there, that was a JoJo reference. So White Rose Musketeer Alberto, grade 2. Auto on rear when this unit attacks. If you have 2 or more rear guards replaced by card effects this turn, you may have this unit get plus 5k till in that battle. If you do, at the end of that battle, again, we have the thing of like, if you do cost now, put this unit into your soul and countercharge 1.
More countercharging. That's crazy.
Yeah. So you have 2 things that countercharge. And it's like,
that's a little much.
Yeah.
I don't think you need one of these.
Or you could have both if they were both just countercharge 1.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that one of them's
that's a
countercharge
lot.
2.
That's a lot of countercharge just for like,
Mm-hmm.
like most X and D don't even have 1.
That's true.
And a lot of them get by regardless.
Yep. Because you just use the counterblast when you need it. I think also forcing people to use the resources like deliberately is important. I think like giving people too much countercharge because kind of entice people to just kind of use stuff whenever they want. And they should be forced to make a decision on how they spend those resources.
What do you mean like forces them to use it deliberately?
Like imagine you had infinite counterblast in Vanguard, right?
Yeah.
You'd be playing a lot more cards that would otherwise like you would not play, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like even like let's imagine a version of Vanguard where every turn you flipped up all your counterblast face up.
Yeah.
And so your incentive now was to use all of your counterblast every turn.
Yeah. So basically
right?
Nitros.
Yeah, basically Nitros. So then you would be playing cards that have heavy counterblast costs way differently than you would if you as it works now, right? Where you're like, oh well, I need to make sure I can't put myself in a position like, let's say you're at 4 damage and you use up all your counterblast. If your opponent just doesn't give you another damage or threatens you with 2 damage every time, you're stuck on the next turn.
Yeah,
right? Because you used all the resources you had.
Yeah,
I think that is important.
Yeah, because then if you're just like getting it all back every turn, to be like, oh, counterblast 2 to gain a crit, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, but like I think like, but if you can imagine kind of the theoretical world where you just have like all your counterblast every turn, you'd be playing the game wildly differently.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I also would love Matt to do that exact same monologue again in Rod Serling's voice.
I don't know who that is.
The guy from the Twilight Zone.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. Imagine if you will.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
Countercharge every turn Vanguard, custom format.
All right.
Everyone just plays Nitros. It's fine.
All right, so the last one is a grade 3 Black Lily Musketeer Herman.
Yeah.
During your turn, this unit gets power plus 2,000 for each of your guards that were replaced by card effects this turn.
Okay.
Sure. And then auto on rear. Once per turn at the end of battle, that this unit attack the Vanguard. If your grade 3 or greater Vanguard's Musketeers card name, you call 2 or more cards this turn. Counterblast 1, put 3 normal cards from your drop to the bottom of your deck. Retire another rear guard and stand this.
Oh,
this one probably shouldn't exist with all the cards that gain crits.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Especially because the grade 1 gives a crit, right?
Can you go back up to the grade 1, please?
Which one?
The one that gives a crit.
The one that gives a crit? Is that Merca?
I think so.
It was like the first grade 1.
Oh no! Yeah, there we go. Merca. And it gets 10K. It gets 10K until the end of the. Okay, so it's only until end of battle.
Okay, so interestingly about this card does not have to give the crit to the one that has the same name. It can give it to this card. Herman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you just had to.
I'm not sure if that's intended. That is quite insane.
Yeah. Because that seems to be intended, because it would just be like whatever it's boosting, it's powering it up.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
Okay, so Zorga theoretically could get into a position where you're swinging 4 times with huge numbers, and then the Prison Dragons have the crits, but like that needs like.
Is it ridiculous if the grade 1 also costs a counterblast? Because then you're looking at a 3 CB turn.
Well, I guess this one is contingent on you calling the Cecilia, right?
I mean, but that's not really a cost, right? And with all the countercharging, this is basically dual. Like as it stands, with the countercharging as it is, this is basically doable every turn.
Okay.
It's quite strong. I think there's an idea here. The numbers need some tweaking, I think. But obviously it's just like a creator card, so the numbers are going to be always a little off. That's the hardest part, actually, is tuning things.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the time in game design goes toward playtesting. Pretty easy to get kind of the basic idea or vision of a game down, but the real test of your metal is kind of tuning it into something that you've put a lot of thought into and have worked out really tiny interactions or making sure every moment is fun and makes sense in some fashion, and that takes a long time.
Yeah, and
and sometimes you're just Konami.
And you're not gonna do everything. Well, in Konami's case, there's no set rotation, so you'll forget. You will forget.
There's no set rotation. Tell that to people who bought Pearly.
Yeah. But it's okay to have an interaction you didn't see coming as long as you're fairly quick about dealing with it on your bandwidth.
I mean, I just think
how long was Firewall Dragon legal?
Yeah, exactly.
I just think I think this is a pretty cool ride line and cool support.
Mm-hmm.
Musketeers are something that people really like and people have liked for a long time, especially because they have hats, and that's a big reason why people like them. But I think I think as it stands to me, in a very kind of objective approach, I think the restanding 2 crit rear guard is quite strong, especially with the amount of counter charging that is available to this. So you can basically do it every turn, at least just from a cursory glance.
Well, so it's not going to restand with the crit because the crit is only until end of battle. But there is a world.
My bad. I thought.
But there is a world where you have 3 attacks that all have crits, and then this restands for a 4th attack.
Mm-hmm.
Which is still pretty ridiculous. Even Zorga doesn't get to that level. Even if you high roll and get all of your prison dragons.
This is one of those things where I wish we had an Edo Pro or something where you could plug in custom cards and try it out, because I've tried.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. So we sure would get on it. I was gonna show my Great Nature ride line, but we're getting close to an hour. I think what I'm gonna do instead is I made a few Royal Paladin cards for premium that are named after historical figures.
Wait a minute.
What?
We said no Keter.
Oh, that's right. Do you not want me to do that then? Because this is forever ago. This is May.
Okay.
All right. So it's just 3 cards. Knight of Cowardice Charles is a grade 1 for Royal Paladin. And then Act in Hand, you can discard this card. Soul Charge 1. Brave abilities of your cards are active until the end of this turn. Auto on Van or Rear, when it's placed, draw 1 card, and that's a hard once per turn. And then auto on Rear at the end of the battle that this unit attacked or boosted, retire this unit. Bonus points if you can name the historical figure.
Could not tell you.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of checked out at this point.
Okay. So I just wanted support for Brave that wasn't overly obtuse. I think it'd be nice to just be man, chuck it. It's online. And then but it's Charles the Bald, the one of Charlemagne's grandsons.
I see.
Yeah.
Is that the ones who are or that's not the ones who split up his empire, right?
That is one of the ones.
That is one of the ones. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
All right. Next one is it's a G-Guard, Divine Knight of Board Games, Khosrow, and because I know Brave has that kind of Middle Eastern aesthetic, so I thought I'd do Iranian Empire here. So, G Guardian, continuous for each unit on you and your opponent's rear guard. This unit gets shield plus 5,000.
All right.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Yeah, a lot of Royals G Guards are if you have things on your side, get shield. And it's what if your board's empty? They're sucks for you. Die.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah. And this is also one of the G Guards that gets around Ichikashima's no auto abilities.
That's true.
Yeah. And then lastly, Emperor of Pragmatism, Belisarius. So here's another G Guardian. When placed on guard circle, perform up to all of the following depending on the number of your rear guards. So if you have 1 or less, choose your vanguard and deal 1 damage. If you have 2 or more, choose one of your vanguards. That unit gets plus 5k power until end of turn. If you have 3 or more, this unit gets shield plus 15k until end of the battle. I wrote end of turn, should have been end of the battle. And then 4 or more, discard a card from your hand, choose your opponent's Vanguard. That unit gets crit -1, drive -1 till end of that battle. And then 5 or more, your Vanguard can't be hit until end of the battle.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it like as your at like the fuller your board is, the bigger of a.
I like how if you have no board, this just like actually hinders you. It's nice. That's a good bit.
Yeah.
It's like you actually just can't use this if you have no rear guards. That's pretty...
Or it'd be pretty funny if like your opponent's actively damage denying you, they go after a rear guard, and they'll like one rear guard you have. You're like, all right, damage myself.
Yeah, that's like such a bizarre edge case, but this is pretty funny nonetheless.
Yeah, the funny part is you can do all of these if you have the full board.
Yeah, I'm aware.
This is more for the listener.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was fun, and I think it was a good time designing this. Yeah, so I guess next time we do a create a card episode, we'll do the Great Nature one. Richard also sent us a Overlord stuff, so maybe we'll look at that. Or if you want to see it, you want to see your stuff talked about on the show, please send it to us at Nexus at Night.
Go show my amazing create a card.
Which one? What am I looking for?
I just sent you.
Oh, right. I forgot this. Okay. Behold, for people watching, Root Beer's amazing create a card.
I use the cool art.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just Silent Tom.
It's just Silent Tom. No, there's no effect. It's literally just the word.
That is the Silent Tom. It doesn't actually have it.
It doesn't need to have it, right? Everyone already knows what Silent Tom does.
It's just Silent Tom.
Yeah, we should just print Silent Tom in D, exactly the same card, like 8,000 power. Your opponent just can't call grade 0s to the guard circle. It's just Silent Tom.
It's just Silent Tom. Honestly, you could make a t-shirt out of this, just like the picture, and then it's just Silent Tom. I'm still a fan of the Walter White art myself, but I see what people are getting at. That's me. Anyway, yeah, send us your creative cards at Nexus at Night on Twitter, or you can, if you're watching this on YouTube, comment them below, please, and leave a like. Helps the channel out. Patreon.com/Nexus at Night also helps us out. Thank you to Darren, Cole, Josh, Jeremy, GR, and Ali for being $10 patrons. If you want a bonus show every week, $5 a month, and if you want to just join our Discord, throw us $1. You get in. So yeah, where can they find the rest of us?
I mean, on Twitter at Wiggums2Gs2Gs.
You can find me at Plasma Eclipse.
Find me at Atlas Novak, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or on YouTube at The Epileptic Comic, or my other podcast, Generation Dan, which is at Generation Dan or Generation_Dan on Instagram. So yeah, and thanks everybody for listening and watching. And until next time, I was Atlas.
I'm Matt.
I'm Root Beer.
And it was just Silent Tom. And have a good night, everybody.